She's still just as bitter as ever.
Leave it to Michelle Obama to reveal what we already knew, that the liberal parties are the ones that hate being women. Now it makes sense why they promote men that dress up like girls, because they hate their own kind.
Women's reproductive health is about our life. It's about this whole complicated reproductive system that does the least of what it does is produce life. It's a very important thing that it does. But you only produce life if the machine that's producing it.
Yes, welcome to another segment. Michelle Obama is making news, receiving massive backlash on social media after saying this. When you take a look at this article, Michelle Obama is facing backlash after a video surfaced on social media from a podcast in which she says that the least important thing about a woman's reproductive system is that it produces life. Motherhood is the most beautiful and powerful gift God gave women. Creating life isn't a side effect, it is a miracle. Author Daniel. When I look at what Michelle Obama is doing, every single time things like these will surface, and it stirred up a lot of reactions on social media. A lot of people are reacting to this. I just want to show you some videos. If you've not subscribed to the channel, please endeavor to do that. It will do you no harm if you share the video.
She's still just as bitter as ever. There's such a great new spin of complaints here. Here's one from her most recent episode, which still on YouTube, she's got like 200,000 subscribers. It's really amazing that now she's been doing this for how many episodes? She's been literally on every podcast of the left wing promoting it. And that's still all she's managed to get. Here she is interviewing Dr. Sharon Malone, perhaps better known as former Attorney General Eric Holder's wife. And therein lies the problem, as these two ladies married to two very famous men are pissed that they are not the alpha in terms of popularity and recognition in their marriages. Listen to this.
Sharon's husband happens to be former Attorney General Eric Holder. He's a non-factor. He is not a non-factor. He's a non-factor in our relationship.
Story. Okay,
in our story.
Let's contextualize that,
although they put us together because we were both reluctant spouses attending one of these huge dinners. And where were they? Was Barack a U.S. senator at the time?
Yes, he was a senator because you were still living in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And Eric was in private practice. So it was the very early days. And, she came to D.C. and you didn't come to D.C. much in those days.
No, ma'am.
And they sit us at a table and we were seated just about like this. She was across the table from me.
Okay.
And you know how there are things going on around us, and I would just look over at her and it was...
Well, and the things were, there was a line of people waiting to shake hands with our respective husbands, people like reaching over our heads and spilling water on us, trying to get to these two, illustrious men.
And that's annoying because she's supposed to be the star. Michelle Obama. This dovetails perfectly with so many other comments she's made about how she is like, what about me? What about me? What did those 8 years in the White House do to my soul? And why isn't anyone asking? They shouldn't have to be told to ask about how I'm doing.
Yes, if you've been watching this channel for some time now, you realize this is about the fifth segment I'm doing about Michelle Obama complaining, oh this, oh that. Every single time I see this, I don't know. Why is she even doing this? Someone told me like she's doing this just to go viral so the podcast can pick up. But this is not the way to go about it. This is a first lady we are talking about here. Not just any kind of person. This her podcast is just everything full of controversies. Look at what she's saying here. At a certain point, I just decided not to even report videos concerning her, but it is important when things like this happen to show you on another segment.
Illustrious men.
And that's annoying because she's supposed to be the star, Glenn. Michelle Obama. This dovetails perfectly with so many other comments she's made about how she is like, what about me? What about me? What did those 8 years in the White House do to my soul? And why isn't anyone asking? They shouldn't have to be told to ask about how I'm doing. Go ahead.
Every single time you showed a clip on this show, including when I wasn't here, but I was watching, but also every time I've been here, every single time, I'm not exaggerating, Michelle Obama is making clear that everything that she had to do to support her husband's career was something that was completely against her will, that it was some sort of like psychological damage and imposed on her for having to do it. Like she has resentment and bitterness, like I went to this dinner, but against my will because I had to. That's the first thing. I mean, how much anger and resentment does she have toward her husband for having had his own political career that, as we've talked about before, made Michelle Obama one of the richest, most influential, most famous, and most powerful people on the planet. And yet she talks as if that trajectory that he took her on was something that, turned her into some kind of horrible victim that we ought to feel sorry for. On top of that, these podcasts where you what she's doing, which is basically just like going around and chit-chatting about her life and the things she thinks is interesting in her life or the thoughts she has in the middle of the night. It's such an act of extreme narcissism to go around talking constantly about the things that are being done to you that you think are unfair, when in the entire 8 billion people on the planet, you are basically in the top 0.00001% of the people who are the most privileged by every reasonable metric. I'm not saying people don't go through bad times if they're very rich or very famous. Of course they do. But don't you have any humility at all, any sensibility at all that most people don't want to hear from you about how difficult your life is, given that you live in this lavish wealth and fame and got to be in the White House for all those years, but she's angry about it and thinks that it's worthy of all of our attention. To hear her resentment, I can't understand the mindset that produces that belief.
I know. How do you not stop, especially when your husband was commander-in-chief for 8 years, and think there will be people who hear this clip who have no arms and legs thanks to these wars that we fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, I know some of them, and they will drag themselves out to run the Tunnel to Towers race and other races to raise money for other suffering veterans and firefighters who got hurt on 9/11 and so on, and their families are surviving, who have actual problems that were basically brought on them by the government. And no one, not even people who aren't anywhere near as catastrophically injured as those guys, but especially guys like that, don't want to hear about how someone had to reach past her to shake Barack Obama's hand. She has zero perspective for what actual problems are, Glenn.
Or just people suffering from
Yes, what is it with these modern Democratic first ladies? They are all bittered. Hillary Clinton is there with her own side. When you see the first lady, they are supposed to be an example. The way they put out information should be different. People expect, I don't know if I'm the only person thinking like that. What I expected her to do during this podcast or what she's doing on YouTube here should be different from what she's putting out there every single day. From one complaint, it's boring at a certain point. This video triggered a lot of people's attention on social media. Reactions are pouring in here and there. Take a look at this one.
Leave it to Michelle Obama to reveal what we already knew, that the liberal parties are the ones that hate being women. Now it makes sense why they promote men that dress up like girls, because they hate their own kind.
Women's reproductive health is about our life. It's about this whole complicated reproductive system that does the least of what it does is produce life. It's a very important thing that it does. But you only produce life if the machine that's producing it, if you want to, whittle us down to a machine, if the machine is functioning.
That's strange. She claims that reproductive health is about your own health. And she said giving birth to a child, being able to create a child within you as a woman, is what I call a miracle from God. But she calls it the very least that a woman's body does. And she goes on to state that the health of her machine is more important. And this is why the Liberal Party believe in abortion, because they put making children at the bottom of their list, even though it's the greatest miracle and honor to be able to create a child as a woman, my opinion. Creating my 2 children is probably the biggest miracle I've ever witnessed in my life that I've been able to do. But you listen to Michelle Obama and she just sounds completely miserable that she has to produce these children in her machine of a body to please her husband. It's just insane to me. Michelle, why are you still married to Barack when you're this unhappy?
That is a good question. If you are that unhappy, why are you still married? Be single, right? The other day, I saw TMZ struggling to do a segment like Michelle was spotted with Obama for the very first time after rumors circulated on social media like divorce, things like that. When I saw that segment, I had to laugh. They are still struggling we are not even into all that. What Michelle is doing is like someone being into marriage for a long time and they're not happy. Look at the comment she made about the reproductive system. It triggered a lot of women, right? If it is not that important, then just stay you alone. You have children, you're happy. But every single day, I don't want to go into things like people saying, oh, why is she? We have never seen pictures of her being pregnant, things like that. I don't want to go into that. I'm just quoting what I've seen people reacting to.
People line up for my advice, and you're walking away like I'm stupid. It's like,
Why don't we choose more carefully who we're going to lionize?
why marriage, infertility, trying to have kids makes things difficult. It's like
She's seriously depressed about how hard it is to live in the White House.
Post this morning alleging that since I said I will prevail.
It also shouldn't be racial.
Require Carmelo to run. He had
100.
Has been overwhelming. The lies in their amplification.
This is not going to end. Right is right and wrong is wrong. All good.
If you see any clips after this, that is just for the YouTube algorithm.
what if he says self-defense? There's no self-defense because kids in here and resolve this issue is called conflict resolution.
Again, the evidence is still coming in.
This is definitely a self-defense case because it always is one until you...
Because she's fearful of what might happen to her.
Followers for anything. And then the
Registration Act is
talking about term, and you will be very...
Once again, the field was littered with Wintour does.
And black people don't want to live around ratchet black.
How bad is his reputation going to
discover after the election?